Greetings. This is Kitty, the Martial Sportist. And I will be on hand with Marx cards at Big Wow Comic Fest 2015. Haha, Kitty, the Martial Sportist. And I will be kicking excited about being there at the comic book thingy. We're going to have lots of guests and exciting panels. I will tell you all about it later, because we cannot bring this camera into the show. Oh, this is Kitty, the Martial Sportist 2015 version of the costume, featuring black pants with stripy parts and the same doak, but you have the Brazilian ninjutsu belt, and yeah, he's a ninja. That's just, well, the middle part's different. Kitty, the Martial Sportist, and his evil salute, which is like ridiculous. He's like, zip, 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 and then he goes pie his skew. That, of course. Kitty, the Martial Sportist. It's gonna be
April 18th, Saturday, Big Wow 2015.
Big Wow.
Yep.
Big Wow.
Big Wow Comic-Con.
Well, it's not Comic-Con.
Well, it's not a Comic-Con.
It's a convention.
Comic book convention / there were a lot of people with toys and collectibles this year.
Yeah, we will eventually go to Comic-Con. It just costs a lot of money.
It costs a lot of money, and you have to have knees of iron, apparently, because everything requires a 20-hour stand-up in line to get close to a hall that you then can't actually get into because it's The Walking Dead or Game of Thrones, and people have been camped out for like weeks, and there's only like 4,000 chairs, and they're already full. Well,
with an attitude like that, we'll never get in.
No, I have friends who go every year, and this is what happens.
Well, we will go to Disneyland later.
Yes. Speaking of Donald.
Speaking of Donald.
Yes.
The duck guy, yeah, the Donald Duck guy was there.
Yes, one of the guests at Big Wow was Don Rosa, who very nice, very generous. Was drawing sketches for people.
Second or third generation, the artist that did the. Yeah, because he said there was a guy before him.
Okay, so yeah, if you don't follow Disney, a lot of what we call the sort of Disney Duck universe comes from an artist named Carl Barks, and he got his start many decades ago doing Donald Duck stories, and he sort of created a lot of the Duck characters who became sort of canon, and is widely considered one of the best comic artists like ever. And yeah, if you pull up any of his like golden era, Duck stories, they're gorgeously drawn, really cleverly written, really elaborate. And he passed away years ago, but there's this other artist who works for Disney, Don Rosa, sort of picked up the mantle of that. And his sort of shtick was expanding on the Uncle Scrooge characters. So he did a 12-part comic series called The Life and Times of Uncle Scrooge, and it won like all kinds of awards and picked up an Eisner Award, I think. And it's really, really well done. I highly recommend it.
Did you do the cartoon?
No, DuckTales was based on the Carl Barks stories. And
so
what a lot of people are kind of surprised to find out is that if Carl Barks hadn't have been doing those Donald Duck stories, we wouldn't have like Indiana Jones and a bunch of other stuff. When you read those comics, a lot of them are about... They're sort of inspired by like the 30s adventure serials, and so you'll have like Donald and his nephews going into like a tropical jungle and finding an Aztec temple, and there'll be like a giant rolling boulder. Gee, where'd they get the idea for that? Really influential. By George Lucas and Spielberg's own acknowledgement, they were reading these comics when they were kids.
Well, imitation is a good form of
Oh, absolutely. But this, Barks was kind of pioneering this stuff in what was ostensibly like a kids genre. But the quality of his work sort of transcends that, and you have a lot of adults who are, passionately devoted to the Carl Barks stories, myself included. So I was totally stoked that Don Rosa was going to be there because he's considered to be sort of the successor to Barks. He's done a lot of comics for Disney that kind of expand on the whole duck verse, if I want to call it that.
Was Alan Quatermain Indiana Jones, or was that
Alan Quatermain, I believe, predates Indiana Jones.
So they were inspired by that too.
So yeah, Indiana Jones is a pastiche of a lot of stuff.
So is Star Wars.
Yeah, and Lucas is nothing if not a sort of a chimeric creative entity. But like you say, imitation's the finest form of flattery. So hey, if you're gonna rip stuff off, rip off cowboy movies and samurai movies and Karl Barks and all this stuff and make, Star Wars out of it. Why not? Just don't, keep going and make Phantom Menace. Stop while you're ahead.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, Don Rosa was there. I was stoked about that.
So yeah.
And, the other artist that I was, one of the main reasons I wanted to go this year, Stan Sakai was one of the featured guests. And he's best known for Usagi Yojimbo, which is this samurai rabbit character that he created.
Yes.
Originally, I think, in Ninja Turtles. It was like a B story in one of the issues of Ninja Turtles.
Yeah. Not to be confused with Usagi Sailor Moon.
Right. I mean, the root word is rabbit, so any rabbit character in Japan is going to be called Usagi, but Usagi Yojimbo basically just means samurai bunny.
So rabbits are native to Japan as well as...
Oh yeah, they got rabbits in Japan.
You figure rabbits would go everywhere. Yeah, figure rabbits would go everywhere on Earth.
Yeah, actually we were talking about, speaking of Earth,
rabbits,
if you go to the moon, in a lot of Asian cultures, you don't see a man in the moon, you see the Usagi in the moon.
Rabbit.
And he's up there making rice cakes, apparently. Rice cake rabbit. I think that's the Chinese take on it.
Fun.
But... and actually, you know what? I never saw a man when I looked at the moon. I don't know that I saw a bunny either, but I never saw the man on the moon particularly. It just looked like a splotch to me.
I saw two figures, one of them chasing the other one. Like,
interesting, that sort of yin-yang thing going on.
That's probably where they got that from.
Yeah.
Actually, it's also the nursery rhyme, Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a little water. The nursery rhyme is about the moon.
So
it's Jack and
they
Jill
actually fell
going
from
down
the
the mountain.
Burned up on re-entry.
Yeah, they were in a rocket
ship.
Exploded
with the force of like 30 atomic bombs. And decimated the country. So that was actually the Tunguska blast, was Jack and Jill on re-entry.
Yeah, they
detonated. But yeah. So Stan Sakai was there. Really nice guy, really mellow. And I was able to not only get him to sign a book for me, he was signing, if you bought a book, he would happily sign it. But I had brought along, he did a variant comic cover for an issue of Rocket Raccoon, issue 2. The Stan Sakai variant cover. And I had been looking online to see what a signed copy of that would go for, and I have never seen a signed copy of it. So I am now in possession of one. But I ain't going to sell it, though. But yeah, he was happy to sign it. He wasn't even going to charge me anything. But he was collecting donations for the Japanese American Heritage Museum. So I, instead of collecting the change from the book that I was buying, I said, "Oh, I'll just consider that a donation." And he was just super cool, really nice guy. Just about every artist that we talked to was really nice. So yeah,
we waved it to Tom Felton, but did not actually.
I don't think he actually saw us or registered our existence.
No, he was kind of off to. There was this roped off area.
Yeah,
and he was sort of roped off over there, and all these people were saying, "Don't get over here, just
you're not allowed to loiter here." I guess they thought we were going to be like snapping selfies,
even though
with him in the background or something.
Camera was in my pants.
Yeah,
and I couldn't get to it.
But well, I can understand the whole autograph appearance thing is a business.
But Richard Hatch was there, and he was nice.
Yeah, now Richard Hatch was totally cool. He was. You didn't have to wait in line to get to him.
Another guy, but
and the other actor, and I'm drawing a blank on his name.
Yeah,
he was in Alien Nation. I should totally remember his name. Sorry, buddy, if you ever see this. Well, we didn't actually end up talking to him, but we talked to Richard Hatch for a little bit, and
he likes the darker version of BSG.
Yeah, he was actually kind of like, I kind of prefer the dark to the campy, but he did say he missed the extended mythos of the original '70s series,
which was agreeably more fun.
It was more of a hoot. I mean, that was back when sci-fi
clearly a rip-off of Star Wars.
Yeah, everything was just sort of a variation on Star Wars, right down to the sound effects, I think.
And then there's that weird sort of movie where they got footage from Battlestar Galactica and made their own sort of really low budget
space. What's that called? MST3K did this brilliant takedown of it. What was it called? Space Rage or something.
Space Raider or something.
Yeah, it was. I forget what it was called. Man, my memory.
That's also on there.
It's only been away for a long time. But yeah,
Space Raiders, I think is what it was.
Yeah, they took recycled footage that was already recycled footage from Battlestar Galactica,
and it looks really grainy. And it was like,
and their way of like trying to hide this was like the Battlestar Galactica ship always did that sort of beauty pass at the beginning of every episode. They just played it backwards, so the engine was in the front of the ship going like it was sucking everything up. It was like that. Yeah, they won't notice that we just reversed the footage.
Oh, and there was this little kid about 5 or so, and
Space Mutiny. Sorry.
No, the other person. Space Mutiny.
That was the movie.
Space Mutiny.
I knew it would come to me. Sorry.
And the kid was like, there was another 5-year-old kid too, which was funny, but this one was the one where the guy had mentioned, the father guy was talking to a comic book guy about like Spaceballs, and turned around and referenced it to the kid, and the kid's like, what? I don't have any idea what that was at all. Yeah. Like, what's that, Daddy? I don't know what that is.
Well, that's what happens when you...
And then there was this other hilarious little kid, like she had a sword, like a toy sword, and there was this guy dressed as one of the aliens.
This guy had a xenomorph costume. It was like really elaborate. It was a full body costume.
And they wanted to have her posed next to the.
And I guess the little kid was saying like, "I want to fight the alien."
And she's all like,
and so they're like, "Okay, go up and fight the alien." And she took that literally, and she ran up and went. And the guy in the suit was like, "Oh." And the mom was like,
and then the kid started freaking out because the mother freaked out.
Yeah, because then the mom was like, "Don't do that," and the kid's like, "Ah!" So you have this image of like this little Jedi girl with a stick crying in front of this giant alien guy, going, "It's okay, it's okay."
We don't have any footage.
Totally surreal. But that's why we go to these things. Okay, you almost got me to cough water up through my nose on that one. I will give you props.
No spit take, though.
Just like Donald.
Here in fire.
We're gonna cut so much of this shit out. I hope.
Hold that down. Oh, you little bastard! You were making all the Scrooge McDuck jokes. And I don't think he's ever gone "oh" at all in the show.
Actually, I think in DuckTales he did.
On occasion. But yeah.
I remember the voice actor who did like Scrooge wasn't traditionally a voice actor. He was like some Scottish guy that they got.
I know. People are nice when me nephews are. Where are we going with this?
Again, I'm assuming some of this stuff is getting cut out.
Yeah,
Anyway, so back on target here. Yeah, so it was a good con. We didn't really stay super late because we pretty much traversed. There was a lot of tables this year.
You spent a lot of money at that one table.
I did. Yeah, actually, one of my purchases. This guy, I guess he's a lawyer, but he runs a high-end sort of a book reprint house, and he had these reprint books of.
Oh, they're reprints, huh?
They're not going to be first edition. Not for the price I paid. These were Walt Kelly Pogo books that collect the original Dell 4-color comics.
How did you get away with doing that?
He probably just paid the royalty rights to reprint them, and probably has to give some of the sale money to the whoever owns the rights to Walt Kelly's estate. But
how long was Walt Kelly? When was?
Okay, so Walt Kelly would be the other greatest comic artist.
There's a lot of great comics.
I mean, if you're talking about the greats of the great, you've got. I mean, you have to put like the Tintin guy in there and all this. A lot of terrific stuff came out of Europe over the years, but of the U.S. artists, you got to talk Karl Barks and you got to talk Walt Kelly. And Walt Kelly, known for Pogo Possum, was started as this sort of fluffy bunny sort of comic strip or comic book, and then when it got syndicated as a strip,
remember the strip
was very stealthily or sometimes not very subtly political, and that was something that was very controversial in its day. I was saying one of the most famous storylines took on Senator McCarthy.
That would have been in the 50s.
Time. Yeah, and this was at a time when McCarthy was still very much somebody to be scared of, and he created this evil sort of swamp bobcat, who was a caricature of McCarthy, and really actually quite scary. Like, it was not really for kids. And he had this gorgeous art style. I mean, if you see any of his like Sunday panels, he evokes like this sort of Louisiana bayou swamp. It's not Louisiana; it's supposed to be Georgia, I think. But the Okefenokee swamp, that sort of Florida area.
Guess because he was from there, or what?
Gorgeous. No, I don't think he was from there, but he evoked that with a really gorgeous palette. He actually worked for Disney too. Was one of the animators on Dumbo, and you can see his character design sort of influence on a lot of the animal characters, particularly the crows. Actually, I believe he character designed them.
The crow.
Yes, but yeah, Walt Kelly did that strip for years and years. And no, these are not originals. Any original Kelly artwork would be worth a lot more than I paid today. But the guy running the booth cut me a really good deal. Knocked about $20 off of the. Actually, knocked about $30 off of the price. And there was this weird gonk with my credit card where he was, doing like the cell phone
money
thing.
on it. That's what it was.
Possibly. Well, not after today, probably. But
now it's all
so
gone.
like it took like 10 minutes for my purchase to go through, and he was like so apologetic. He's like, "Hey, I got another book here. You like James Bond? Here, take a James Bond book." So I was like, "Okay, sure, thanks."
I would have taken the either the Star Trek one or the early sci-fi.
Yeah, I
Argonauts
didn't really have time to think about it, but I was like, "Hey, I'm a James Bond fan, so why not?"
It's the comic book one. It's the.
Yeah, it's all of the sort of, it's about the artwork from like the dust jackets back in the day and some of the comics, but interesting stuff. And I mean, I love James Bond. I've seen all the movies, so why not? So that was, I consider that kind of a score, because the Pogo books sell for actually more than I paid for them if you go online. So that was
Even the reprints.
very generous of the guy. Well, it's a reprint of the comics. I mean, it's just sort of an omnibus of all of the Dell comics in one package.
By way of this, so they were essentially sort of kind of bootlegs.
Not really. I'm sure they're authorized, or they wouldn't be able to sell them. They probably just paid whatever reprint rights you need to pay to the estate in order to be able to do that.
You read about the big later on when they come for you.
And they're not going to come for me.
Come for him and arrest you.
No. Well then, they'll be collector's items.
Bootleg materials.
They're not bootlegs. They're just reprints. But he had a bunch of stuff. Some of the Flash Gordon comic strips. Terry and the Pirates. Yeah, all of the anytime you're buying like a hardbound art
I probably won't be able to find those Flash Gordon ones anywhere.
Yeah, you might. I don't know how much money you've got left after today, but if you were going to buy anything, I guess you could
buy one of them.
Buy like the first volume or something. But honestly, if I was going back for tomorrow, which I'm not, I only booked for one day this year. But there is a Pogo panel tomorrow that I would have been into, and I'd probably go back and start bugging Don Rosa to like draw me sketches and stuff. But
yeah, I want him to do a Star Trek Donald Duck.
Yeah, that's a terrific idea, actually.
Just to be weird.
Yeah, what was it going to be? So Scrooge has to be McCoy.
Either Scrooge was going to be McCoy, and it's going to be one guy, or it was going to be Huey, Dewey, and Louie as Kirk, Spock, and Bones.
Yeah, either of those ideas
is awesome.
Because we were thinking like, okay, well, if you had Scrooge as McCoy, then Donald Duck would probably have to be Captain Kirk. But then we were like, well, who in the heck would Spock be?
Gizmo Duck.
And I'm thinking it would have to be like Gyro Gearloose or something. Although the personality is not really right there, but...
I think that would be Data.
Actually, Gyro would be Scotty.
Scotty and Data.
Well, if you're doing classic Trek. But yeah, so you'd probably be better off just doing Huey, Dewey, and Louie. Slowly escorted away from the table.
What was that lady? The young lady was in the line. She was dressed like a pink mushroom thing. She had like a hat, and she was like a pink spotted mushroom thing. And it was like on the top was that mushroom. Down here is all pink and spots.
Oh, she said she was from some anime show, but it didn't ring a bell, so I have no idea. I think I've seen the character online, but
I've seen it too.
Yeah. Now the one.
And then there was the other one with the white outfit that was like spotted and there were circles all over.
Yeah,
that was different. That was a white spotted one.
I'm not sure what that was
Had
from
circles.
either. We're kind of out of the loop, I guess, on some of the more current fandom stuff. There was one though I would have loved to have asked, but I didn't get a chance. Like it was this kind of animal costume that looked kind of like an otter or a mouse, maybe.
Yeah.
And it was like some character. It looked like some sort of Redwall thing, and had this giant fish plush thing that they'd made that had like this sort of lamprey mouth on it. And it must have been from something from one of the artists, because the lady in the costume was getting the fish signed by the lady behind the table, was signing it like it was her character or something. So but I didn't get a chance to ask what in the heck this was or what it was.
Look in the program and see whether.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't remember the name, so it could be a lot of people. But yeah, that was just sort of peculiar.
Oh, there was a Back to the Future car, and I posted it.
Oh, the DeLorean.
See that.
Yeah, I guess this guy has built himself a reproduction of the movie DeLorean.
It's amazing how tiny the cockpit of that car is.
Yeah, I didn't get in it, but it looked kind of.
I don't know how Doc Brown fit in that thing. He's about my.
They had to have sawed. They probably just.
Christopher Lloyd is about my height.
Yeah.
Maybe, and
they probably just cut away the bottom.
I know that they could fit Marty McFly.
Yeah, that guy's short, tall. But Christopher Lloyd is a tall guy. It'd be like trying to cram into the cockpit of a World War II fighter or something.
That wouldn't work.
But yeah, so he got to be in the DeLorean, and the guy running the thing, I guess he has some kind of a web-based reality show that he's in or something. It didn't ring a bell for me, but I'm out of the loop on the Back to the Future fandom.
Yeah, I think he actually got Christopher Lloyd to be in one of them.
Really?
I think he's the guy that had him like show up at the.
That's pretty awesome. Although, bear in mind, Christopher Lloyd also agreed to be in Baby Geniuses 2.
He also agreed to be in the fake I've invented hoverboards thing that Tony Hawk put up.
Although that was actually pretty cool.
It was a joke, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean that was funny.
And people were like really mad.
People were nuts. They were like, "Oh my God, they finally did it! Oh, my childhood!"
No, it's fake.
Yeah, not so much. But yeah, so the DeLorean was there. We didn't talk to him, but the Bay Area chapter of the Ghostbusters cosplayers were there.
There were some weird stormtroopers that didn't make sense.
Yeah, and there was a bunch of costumes. It was like, unless you stopped and asked the guy specifically, "What in the heck are you?"
Nobody asked me what Kitty Key was.
Oh, well, the Doc Brown sort of guy.
That guy did, yeah.
He had no idea what your answer meant, but
a Ronin without a clue. That's funny.
Oh yeah.
Because a Ronin, like Usagi, who's a Ronin,
yes,
is a samurai without a master.
Yes,
basically runs around and.
Although I learned something about samurais, our popular cultural misconception of them is that they were these master sword fighters, and that was their, preferred mode of combat. Actually, if you were a samurai, you never wanted to have to use your sword. It was considered kind of a mark of shame if you had to use your sword. It meant that your archery sucked and that you missed your target with your bow and arrow. That's what they used.
Bow and arrow.
And you were never supposed to get close enough to have to actually do hand-to-hand combat. You were supposed to be a master archer. So a lot of our conception of samurais in the movies is based on kind of a fanciful notion.
Kind of like the Vikings and the helmets.
Yeah, that was from.
They also in the yeah, it's the same idea. It's like they would draw these samurai with these elaborate, flashy, heavy costumes, and like the Vikings with the helmets, they wouldn't have worn that. Only like the main, like the Imperial Guard of the Emperor, they would have worn. They would have had
fancy clothing. They never had hats with horns on them, though. was
Yeah,
entirely made up.
even the samurai with the horns, they wouldn't have had that either.
Oh yeah, you typically, if you were going into battle, you didn't want to put pointy
Heavy
things
on
all
your
over
head.
you that could be easily grabbed.
Torn off.
Have your opponent grab your head and just... It wouldn't have been strategically very sound.
Yeah, so both of those groups, they made them look different.
Yeah, actually, the Vikings, from what I have been reading, were, we have this image of them as these sort of like hairy barbarians.
They were actually quite
They were
cleanly.
kind of the dandies of their time. They spent a lot of time primping and grooming themselves.
Actually, they were quite clean. I think they get that from the Franks and the Norse when they came later.
People who
But they
write
were
the
more
history
Germanic
tend to be-
versions of them. And they just said, we don't need to do that.
Yeah,
They were later.
yeah. History tends to get gilded in the retelling, but
And all the horn helmets thing is from that Wagner play.
oh yeah, because
That's
it
where it
looked
comes
cool
from.
on stage. Basically, that was the only reason.
It was blame Richard Wagner.
Yeah, some costume designer was like, "Hey, this looks awesome," and now everybody thinks that that's what they wore, but they did not.
They do not. And probably Romans didn't wear what they show in Roman movies either, gladiator movies.
Although,
That's a little closer, but
right.
but they wouldn't have been all
Well, we
done
know
up
what
in
their
gold.
we
and
know what
everything.
their outfits looked like. They've found preserved like Roman helmets and all that kind of stuff. But so what did happen with the samurai? The reason that we do think of samurai swords as this cool thing is that after the samurai era, when you had actual samurai as like your military force, they became sort of like statesmen and figureheads, and then the sword became a status symbol. And that's why we think of samurai swords as being almost sort of like mystically awesome. It's because, if you were a samurai, you were expected in that era to have like a really butt-kickingly awesome sword. You never really used it.
It was on display.
You weren't decapitating people, in the boardrooms necessarily, but although that would make it for an awesome meeting, wouldn't it?
Yeah, this meeting is over. That was right out of Kill Bill.
Oh yeah. So it's not to suggest that the samurai did not actually know how to use their swords. They just preferred.
Yeah, that was
bow
in
and
Kill
arrow.
Bill, either 1 or 2. It's one of the chick walks into the boardroom meeting and goes, "All of you must die," and she kills.
Oh,
him in
you're
the boardroom
talking
meeting.
about the Oren scene in the first one where she decapitates the Yakuza guy.
Yeah, she walks in on their meeting and
Well, no, it's
Yeah.
her meeting. It's just he's disrespectful, so
she's like,
just kind of like
cuts his head
knocks
off.
his head off, and there's this cool fountain of samurai gore shooting everywhere. That's one of the things too about samurai movies that's unrealistic but awesome. Is that when you cut somebody with a samurai sword, they typically don't shoot blood like 50 feet in the air and fire hose the walls with it, but it looks cool, doesn't it?
Yeah, the ones with the armor would have been later on in the
Yeah.
more fanciful period.
But yeah, the samurai sword was always meant to be more of a status symbol than, something you lived or died by. Bow and arrows, though, apparently they were master archers. Little history lesson on the samurai.
Samurai. Is that in the book with the bunny rabbit?
Actually, I haven't read the one that you bought, the Red Scorpion? Red Beetle? I haven't read that one. But, actually, they Usagi Yojimbo tends to do a lot more sword play. And that's the thing. He doesn't pull his punches in the artwork. When characters die, they really die. And they do bleed. And, it's not really for kids. Which is why I didn't even remember that this existed until he was telling me about it on the way home. He's like, "Oh, you should see the Usagi Yojimbo cartoon."
There's an Asagi in space cartoon.
And I'd never
It's
seen
not him,
it. And
it's
so he's
someone
like,
else.
and there's all these robots in it. And I was like, robots? What in the heck? So we're watching it, and it's basically like the Ninja Turtles. There's these, animals with swords chopping up robots. And it was... The thing is, Usagi sounds like about as white of a dude as...
In the story.
In the cartoon. I mean, he's just like, "Hey guys, we should totally go over there and defeat them." Everybody else kind of has an accent, so he sounds like Kevin Costner in Robin Hood. You couldn't even try for the accent, huh? Or get an actual Asian actor. There are such things, but But yeah, it was just this really super cheesy cartoon. And I was thinking, oh, well, they did a Space Usagi comic.
Maybe that's what it was.
So maybe that's what they were riffing on. Although, what did he said? Get the Bunny Squad or something. He had something. I'm pretty sure is not in the comics. I think they made up most of that for the cartoon. Yeah, it was pretty cheesy.
Bunny Squad. So yeah, they.
But I was stoked to meet Mr. Sakai and get when he signs when he signed our stuff, he drew like actual little Usagi sketches in the book, so that was nice. So yeah. So it doesn't sound like it, but I did actually exercise some restraint this year compared to last year.
Except for when you spent, I don't know how was it in those books.
Oh, it was actually for art books, full color art books. Not bad prices, and I looked online before I committed to buying them, and the online prices were a lot stiffer. But I do need to check today.
Oh yeah, the horror hosts were still there. Lord Blood Rah was still there.
Blood Rah was there.
John Stanley was there, and that other guy.
Miss Misery was there.
Miss Misery was there on the other side.
Yeah.
And Stanley and the other horror host.
John Stanley was there.
The other horror host guy was there too.
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank on the other
Talking about Miller, the other guy, but not comic book Miller, but the other horror host before him.
Yeah.
Before John Stanley.
Yeah. Yeah, we did their panel last year, and it was actually a total hoot.
Well, they should be back tomorrow.
Yeah, I think they'll be doing one tomorrow. Again, I'm not going to be there tomorrow, but you can go to that one, see how it goes. But yeah, the horror host guys are always a lot of fun, and it's kind of fun that there still are such things, because the era of the horror host was really, going back to like the Vampira days, but the notion of having like a creepy host who would like show you scary movies on TV and like talk to you about them during the commercial breaks. It's a very archaic model because we don't even really watch TV anymore. Everything's streaming, online. So to sort of keep that torch alive is, I think, actually quite charming.
That Blood Rah guy is doing some late time, but of course I'm not going to go to that.
Well, yeah, you'd have to be there till all hours. Yeah, the era of the midnight movie is not dead.
Show some cheesy
it's
movie.
Undead.
It's undead. Yeah, it's not the name of the movie.
No, but I'm sure they'll be showing. They always show like somehow managed to always fit Rocky Horror in there. There's always a showing of Rocky Horror
somewhere,
even in this day and age. And talk about dated.
Madrid.
Whatever you end up doing tomorrow.
Ooh.
You should really get that Star Trek Don Rosa picture.
Star Trek picture.
Apparently, all you got to do is bring him some paper and he'll draw on it.
Ooh.
Yeah. I don't know if he charges for it. I didn't see any prices for the drawings, so I'm not sure what the deal there is. But he was happy to be drawing stuff for the fans. This is a guy who clearly appreciates his fandom.
Unless after this convention, then he's like, I don't want to be here anymore. And then he starts to sound like Scrooge Donald going.
If anybody made a noise like that, it would probably mean they were having a stroke.
Well, that's what they have to.
But yeah, you should totally get him to draw you a picture. But, yeah, I mean, I could have spent more, but I kind of bumped into the ceiling of my limit. So, yeah, a bit of a splurge, but and we had this awesome Italian lunch afterwards.
We went back to DiMaggio's after about 15 years.
There it is.
Went to DiMaggio's, and it's a place featured in the evergreen episodes of On Location Journals.
Yep. And it still looks very similar. They've expanded the floor space a little bit, but the stromboli, that's their signature dish.
We kept calling it strombolis, but it's called DiMaggio.
Yeah.
Named after Joe DiMaggio.
Yep. Their particular recipe for it is delicious. Highly recommended if you happen to ever be in San Jose on Monterey Road. Go to DiMaggio's. I'd say tell them I sent you, but they don't know who I am, so they would just look at you funny.
Who the hell is this guy? He's not even Italian. German. I can tell. Because he's not Italian.
This is true.
I walk in there and go, you're probably a fourth Italian. Yeah.
Well, now you're about...
I'm a fourth Italian.
You're a quarter Italian.